Hi, my name is Katie Lau, and I'm here to talk to you about TreeHouse Foods, the macro environment, and our past analysis of what that looks like for food manufacturing in the United States. So, as we did our deep dive into TreeHouse Foods and the manufacturing industry, we wanted to look at that past analysis. As a review, that means the political, legal, economic, sociocultural, and technological forces. Those environmental factors that are really going to influence this greatly. And those external influences, they're outside our control, but we need to maximize on the potential and minimize our risk as an organization. So first off, we want to talk about the political and the legal factors that are affecting food manufacturers. So right now, there is a ton of increased regulation on manufacturing. This really does begin from food safety, first and foremost, but also our changing values as Americans, what we're going to tolerate as a society and consumers and what we will not. And many of this started with the Food Safety Modernization Act many years ago, but you can see the increased regulatory responsibility of the FDA, of all the organizations that transport and deliver food, the nutrients to at-risk populations. Really, everybody in the United States is susceptible to any low-quality food sources, contamination. You see how widespread these can really be. So these legal factors are increasingly important and will continue to do so. With the rise of social media, these factors are showing that if there is an outbreak, a risk, your brand, your label, the trust, that is really at risk long term. And there's not a whole lot you can do to salvage that. If it does happen, not only are we putting our population at risk, but this would also put our organization at risk. So looking at those critical control points and how we're going to manage the traceability of all of our ingredients and packaging. The legal environment also gives way to that political environment. So as you all know, that the political environment is changing day by day. What we're experiencing, the pressures, it's happening to organizations too. It's not just happening to individual consumers. So the pressures that they're facing are also very great. And how do we respond appropriately to the political requirements and the leanings of our government and organization, and also where do our consumers believe is the most priority for them. So other political factors are going to be those tariffs that are added to all the food, packaging, ingredients, things that are coming into the United States, those changing requirements on where we're allowed to source food from, the packaging, the raw materials, and that's changing every few months. So maintaining that supplier control is going to be enormous, and not just having one vendor, one place to find these ingredients and raw materials. This is going to be multi-source factor, which will compound the issues that you may have on trace gains and making sure that traceability from the very beginning on every single lot and SKU. Other places that we are seeing this happen is in synthetic dyes, other contaminants, chemicals that are being used in the packaging and in our products. And you can see that the United States will most likely be following the progressive actions that the EU is having. And if you ever want to export back to the EU or to some of these other developed countries, we will have to be in compliance with these pieces. So that also leads us into that economic pressure. We're feeling that economic pressure from our increased supply cost, and then also what our consumers are willing to tolerate, because they're being squeezed everywhere as well. Those economic pressures are happening at the gas pump for consumers, and they're also going to be in the delivery charges when they go across the country, whether it's flying, driving, distribution centers or direct manufacturer sales. So you're looking at all those pieces. Higher labor cost. Most of our factories are here in the United States. That gives us the control on what we're manufacturing, but also the higher labor cost. If you're talking about any place with a labor union and those additional restrictions and complications, health benefits are continuously rising, and there's a lot of factors there. Minimum wage continues to increase. It is still the employees' world at this point. The employer is at the mercy of where they can get the quality workers to show up and do the job that they're meant to do, because with the changing job markets, you have much more fluid job force. You have people who are less likely to stay long term. You're looking at that 2 to 3 year turnover for so many, especially the entry level positions that fuel a lot of these factories. So looking at that, how do we retain those people, all those structures, and making sure that we're taking care of everything that we need to ensure we have that supply chain. The cultural issues. So when we talked about those consumers, those main trends that are happening, they're demanding safer food, that these dyes are being taken out of their food, that we have that traceability, that we have good labeling, not just what the requirements are, but going beyond that is what the consumers are really looking for. Having that ingredient listing, the supplemental facts on how do I use this as an ingredient? Give me some recipe ideas. We have to continue to develop what that looks like, because these are offerings that will put us in competitive market and are required now by those consumers. So when we look at that, it feeds back into the technology trends. So as we take a peek at that, you will need that website management. You'll need you will need the enterprise system to track all these changes. TreeHouse Foods uses SAP, which is a global organization that is really the forefront leader in this. This is going to be able to trace those individual packaging, every single raw ingredient piece of packaging, where it went to, what truck it went on, and that traceability is going to be paramount in the success. In the event there is an issue, but maintaining that traceability and that transparency for our customers. Now, that technology does not come inexpensive, bring us back into the economic pressures, but also with the technology, we have places that we can increase automation and reduce those repetitive stress injuries at our factories, help streamline those processes, being able to give a better quality of life to all of our staff. But this will also increase our efficiency, the food safety, those forecastings, because we'll have the real tools and metrics to take a peek at that and make good decisions. It's just another force, but it's a major force, and it's going to continue to impact in the coming days. And if we can correctly forecast where technology trends are going and be ready to capitalize on those, that'll put us in the right market and a prime place for greater control in our field. As we transition into those environmental forces, this is going to be the emissions, all of those pieces that we are really watching. What does our water content look like that we're using in our ingredients, and our wastewater? How are we managing our wastewater treatment and any of the refuse that comes from the process? Really, we are now looking at sustainable packaging and making sure that everything is biodegradable, that these plastics that they've been wrapped in for so many years is now going to be a thing of the past. And we need to make sure how we're responding to those economic pressures, how we're responding to those environmental issues. So making sure that we are aware of the changing consumer demands and all these other factors that are happening around us and to us, making sure that we're paying attention to how those legal requirements are going to be changing us and where the impact will be felt. Will it be felt in our raw source materials, or will it be felt more in the distribution cost after the product is made? So making sure, especially on perishable products, that we have the right place to go with them and when, and that we're not looking at these long-term storage fees. TreeHouse Foods operates in an industry that's shaped by all those pressures, the regulation, sustainability expectations, and those changing consumer demands. The consumers, the political legal environment, all of it is making a profound impact. All the voices are being heard, and it's really going to change the market. And it has been changing it for the last several years, but in order to maintain our market share and hopefully increase the market share and maintain competitiveness, we'll be really capitalizing and making sure we are in control to all the aspects we can, and we have a strategic plan to make sure that we're positioned correctly for the future.